And I was contacted and asked to do a 4 by 4 foot painting for a very nice hotel, and it had to be from Colorado. There were several Colorado artists that were involved with this. So anyway, they wanted to see a couple ideas, and so I sent 2 ideas to them. And this was the first. Well, this was the source of the first one, and this was a piece I did some years ago. It's a pastel painting of one of my favorite places to paint in the wintertime. And I don't have the paint. I don't have the on the spot piece for this. It's gone. But so I thought, okay, well, this is a good one because I could kind of sink my teeth into this. And so this pastel is it's approximately maybe 2024 18 24 18 22, probably in 1822. Anyway, I thought I could recompose this and it'd be an exciting piece up really large. So this is a thumbnail I did with the Copic markers. Mainly, I'm just very abstractly breaking down my lights and midtones and how I want where the big shapes would be placed, and the there's a little more subtlety in this. And I'll often do these. This is a studio thumbnail, obviously, and so I'll spend more time on these, organizing my thinking, organizing the space, organizing the value pattern, so on and so forth. So this was my recompose of this piece, and then I went ahead and I did it. This is a 10-inch square of this thumbnail and the of that previous painting, as you can see. So then for my second piece, I went to another. Now this was an on-the-spot piece, summertime, and this is up in the mountains directly west from where I live, and it's right at tree line in Rocky Mountain National Park. And so this was a 12 by 9, and I thought, I have it here in the studio. I thought, okay, I can recompose this into a square and have something equally as exciting as the previous one. Here's a photograph of the location, and so here's my on-the-spot piece, which is one I really went with, but I did have several photographs of this general area that I was painting for information, for detail stuff, because a painting that size is going to have I can't really just take something like this and take it up to 4 feet square and simply use bigger brushes and more paint. It doesn't quite work that way. So here was a little gouache piece that I did as a color compositional study for the client, and I sent the 2 off. This one, this one, and this one, and they came back and they selected this particular one, the summer piece, the early summer piece. So this is where I go from here. Now we'll get into more of the step by step, and because I thought you might enjoy seeing just how I go about transferring this up to a large canvas. So once this was approved and they decided this was the direction they wanted to go, then the next thing I have to do is figure out, okay, what's my palette going to be? Because I want to keep this simple as far as my palette goes, because of the size of this thing, and I don't want to have to be hunting around for the whole thing, it's what we've discussed throughout the course, and that is one of the main reasons for working with a limited palette is number one for harmony. And really, my backdoor reason for using a limited palette is because I want to remember at the end, by the next morning when I come in to address the canvas, I want to remember what I mixed up yesterday afternoon to get that particular passage. And the fewer colors I have sitting out there on the palette, the easier it is to figure out where I left off, as opposed to using 12 colors and probably, at the end of the day going, well, that's a pretty spiffy passage there. And it might have been a combination of 4 or 5 colors, who knows. And I can walk in the next morning, scratch my head and go, whoa, what on earth did I mix to get that? I can't remember. So waste, 2 or 3 hours of the morning trying to figure out how to get back to that particular base. So this is what I ultimately came up with, was a 7th chord comprised of Indian red and a permanent bright red, and those you can see kind of up in here in this area. And granted, it's not a very well structured color board, but it's giving me the information that I need, because I know going off that little color thumbnail, this is and the on the spot piece, these colors are going to get me into the range I need to be in. On this particular cad yellow orange, you can see down here in the corner, I've marked down my 7th chord, which is red, yellow orange, yellow green, and blue. So I used 2 reds, permanent bright red and Indian red. So I had a good range on my reds, from a really hot one to a really strong Indian red. Is an opaque, and you get beautiful grays, especially when I get down here mixing with my greens. And my cad yellow orange, that's a Vasari cad yellow orange, and I really like that one. And then for my yellow green, I went with an olive green by it's Winsor Newton's olive green. It's a very dark, you can see right down here. Out of the tube it looks black, but it's a very neutral yellow green, and which mixes well, get beautiful grays when you mix it with reds or oranges or, gosh, so many of them in blues. You can see some of what you can attain right over here with mixing with blues. You can get these wonderful blue greens in here. They're neutral. They don't jump. They stay. They're just really beautiful grays, and that's what I'm looking for here. And this cad yellow orange mixed with my ultramarine blue over here, which is the one I went with, gives me some really elegant grays, as you can see, all over. This little swatch over here, though, is I thought right at the end, I thought, I'm going to see what phthalo blue does, and it would work, but it's a little too overpowering for just a little bit more than I wanted for this particular piece, especially working this large. And my yellow green, my other yellow green, I used 2 of them, was a permanent yellow green made by Rembrandt. And it has a transparency to it that gives me some really good range there too also. So over here was my cad yellow right here, my cad, oops, what's going on here? Cad yellow orange in here. And then you can see I went in here and I mixed and got some real oranges over into the red oranges, both mixing them with the permanent bright red and the Indian red. So throughout, now I've really found some useful, elegant grays that will serve me well for the large painting. So the next thing I do is with my my phone, my iPhone, I photographed that little gouache study, and then I blew it up large. So these are 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, and I divided that sketch into quarters and printed out 4 pages, and then mosaiced them together. You can see I taped them down, so that overall image is probably almost 24 square. So it's going to be half the size of the original canvas that I'm going to be working on. So it gets it up and big enough, large enough, so I can see it well, and you can see how I gridded it off, because that composition was really crucial. And one of the things I really want to do once I work that composition out is to make sure that everything goes down on that canvas in the same proportion as the sketch. So that's why I do it in this much detail, because going up to 4 by 4 feet, it just dimensionally, it's a much larger area that you have to cover. And one of the problems that we all run into when we're blocking in is that we're standing right up in front of this thing. So the correct view distance for a painting this large is at least 20 feet away. Well, when you're standing on top of this big canvas, you really don't. It's easy to lose your sense of proportion. So that's why I grid it out the way I do and transfer it up. So you can see here some of the lines, the grid lines, that I laid them out precisely with a straight edge to begin with and fine charcoal. But as I start working and laying the big areas in, you lose that. You lose the vine charcoal because it's so soft. So what I do is you can see these tick marks on the edge right here, and let's see if you can see it. I try to preserve them as long as I can, and each one of these squares on here is 1 foot, one foot square. So you can see it comes through, and I'll retain those marks out here on the edge as long as possible, right up to just about the finish time, in case I need to describe one of these squares just to make sure the proportions are still back really on where I want them to be. So it's just one of the things that I like to do. There's no right and wrong to this. It's just over the years I've figured out this is one of the easiest ways to do it. And this, if I'm my pointer, here it is. This is a cast shadow from my palette, my Tabaret, and my big palette just being cast on the canvas. And for this, I stretched a canvas for it, because it's just too unwieldy to try and do it on a big gator board panel or one of the plywood panels that some of the guys like to use. And for me, I have a hard time getting down on the floor or even on a table and roll out the glue and mount the canvas to something this large. So I went with a stretch canvas, and which I haven't worked on for a while, and I had forgotten how sweet it is to work on stretched canvas. So I could go back to working larger pieces on stretch canvas very easily. There's just a wonderful feel that happens, that communication between the brush and the canvas when you're putting paint down. So we'll go to the next one. Now, these are close-ups. I just wanted you to see about the consistency of the paint. At this stage, it's very thin, and I'm blocking in. I'm using number 10 and 12 bristle brushes, and and really just laying this stuff down and trying to stay true to the composition itself. And you can see the nature of the lines here. Not a big deal. Here's another close-up of that, just so you get an idea of how rough this really is when we're in the block-in stage. And here's a shot of this is the consistency of the paint on the palette, and as you can see, I've thinned it considerably. There's my permanent bright red, and here is my yellow orange over here, and you can see this is King's blue, which is nothing more than ultramarine blue with white added to it, and taking it up to about a 50% gray. It's just a convenient way to. I use it a lot because I use it as a lightener that just saves me a little time, either in the field or in the studio, and it's ultramarine blue, so it fits. It's right in there with my regular palette, with my plan for this piece. So you can also see the grays that I'm getting down here with the Indian red and ultramarine, and it has some orange in it, the yellow orange in it, so you can shift it cool or warm, light, dark, any direction you want to go with it. And so yeah, just to give you guys an idea of how I like to work and what works for me. Now on this frame, you can see I'm just starting to develop kind of from the middle out in all directions, and I every piece is different. It has different demands of the artist and how to. So I don't have any real set way, particularly, other than to definitely I start thin and work to thicker paint. In this particular approach, I want, and another general way that I like to work, which is pretty standard, is from the back area to the front, down to the front, because as we move forward, we want, just in terms of the physical properties of the paint and the way we're describing the masses, we want these foreground things to be placed over the top of what's in the back, and just in the way you're applying the paint, it's a very natural way to work, and the viewer picks up on it, and they can't tell you why, but they pick up on it when your midground is painted over the top and pulled over the top of the background, and the same with the foreground. So in that respect, it's just a logical way to approach this, and oftentimes you might kind of feel your way through it in the very early stages and see what feels right in terms of how you want to proceed. So I would like to also at this stage kind of point out where I departed from my original sketch here, my on the spot piece. Now you can see how it's been recomposed to here, how it went from here to here. The changes, how I recomposed, and now this area, whoops, I didn't want that to move like that. This area, hold on. This area in here, you can see it doesn't appear in the either in here or in my sketch, in my initial study. I made this up. I had to make this up, and my plan for doing that is to get. This is such a powerful movement coming down through here across the painting. It's really powerful diagonal movement. I needed a counterbalance to it. So I chose to I created this snow field, this chute to come more or less straight down. And as we go into this stage, you can see here I'm really playing this up and bringing it straight down to intersect with this snow field that's coming in this way to counteract the thrust of this really strong motion going across. It's I mean it was I realized in the initial composition, as much as I liked it, I needed to find ways to nail this baby down, and so I had these foreground trees that will intersect, which we'll look at here in a few. But also, you see, I've blocked this area in, and my original intention was to keep it simple. It's just a big scree field, and well, that would be a nice, simple juxtaposition against the texture of this big cliff face up in here. So, and you can, I mean, that was, see how simple I kept that scree field. That was my first plan. Well, that'll be easy to handle. Well, not so. And I got to this stage and I realized, wow, that's a big chunk of nothing over here. And I have no desire to get in there and paint a bunch of little rocks and try and make it read as a jumble of rocks, which it really is. So, okay, now at this scale, that simple statement that was on over here on this one, that's not going to work anymore. So what do? Well, I'm going to have to go against my grain and of the way I like to plan things. And it's what Harvey Dunn said. When you think you back off and you look at it and you think, well, it just needs one more thing. No, take something out and it'll be stronger. Well, it doesn't always work. So I needed a little bit more division down across that big empty area, and you can see now what a difference that makes. It just gives it's more in keeping with just these massive formations that have been glaciated, just carved out by glaciers, and so it just gave an added dimension to play off of, also to play off of the delicacy of these trees back here on the distant shoreline, which if against that big empty area, you don't get that sense of scale and the transition from the big rock face up here down into the scree field and down into the trees. So I felt that it really needed that, and it benefited from adding that one more element of texture in there. And you can also see now the snow field dropping down in here again. I made it up. And in reality, it's not it's not really logical, because with the facing of this slope would generally tell you that, well, that's going to melt off faster but there are times when you simply have to create devices to move the eye around, and so that's what you do. And it felt totally logical to me visually, maybe not in reality, but visually, compositionally, it was absolutely necessary. So went from this stage right here, and you can see that there are big areas, and I have to apologize up front to everyone. I mean, these are all photos I took with my phone. This canvas was a little bit too large for me to get my big camera in and shoot refined, museum quality images. And the client will be they are shooting museum quality images of these, and those of us who were part of this will all get those images at some point, and I'll post a really good image of this painting, because the color's a little skewed, the values are skewed, the detail. I mean, it's not a super accurate image of the painting itself, but it gives you a rough idea. And as you can see, I kept these foreground trees and the water in the foreground, and a lot of these mid to foreground passages to the last, because for the reasons that we discussed a minute ago. And so now we'll go to the finished piece, and yeah, this image is a little bit what I call jumpy, as far as a lot of the subtle intermediate values are gone, and the intermediate color is you lose it with the, in spite of the fact that these cameras and these darn phones are really good, it misses everything down in here. There's a lot of real subtle stuff going on in here that just, it has some rich grays and some rich subtle color that I was very pleased with. But this gives you a general idea, and you can see how I chose to really explain this drop down in here into the trees and the highlighted snow coming down in here, and then the counteracting the counter direction of the cast shadows, and even the texture of the rock, and the flow of those masses, those forms, to really pull down into, you know, my main character in here. And there were things that I had in this one. Let's get rid of some of this stuff. You can see where there, at one point, I'd had a bare tree coming up through here, and I thought, now that just, you know, as you close in on the finish, you really have the painting tell you what it needs, and you start eliminating things and giving certain passages more weight. You can see, I think over here, see that I had originally kept those pretty sparse over there on the in this area. Well, those are a little bit more filled in. I mean, a little bit more massive. And I went back to that. I was originally going to try and play that snowfield back here behind these trees, play it coming through the trees, but realized that was getting way too busy and fragmenting and getting too interesting. And so as a result, I went back to more of a big mass of trees with a few sky holes in it, and set this guy off to really anchor the whole foreground to the midground, and repeat the verticality of this snowfield coming down. So I mean, that's pretty much the planning. I got a little detail there of the corner carve on this beautiful frame, and a little close up of you can see, I mean, you can see the paint. It's still pretty much just scrubbed in paint from the initial block in, and if it works, don't mess with it. And I mean, you can see some little bit of canvas coming through there. That doesn't bother me, because from the proper view distance, it all comes together. And so I hope you enjoyed this little journey, journey of the mind, so to speak, and my process.
Hi, I'm Skip Whitcomb. I'll be conducting a mentoring course on color harmony. In over 40 years of teaching, color seems to be one of the biggest mysteries. We'll be able to spend a year together developing a reliable foundation for making harmonious color decisions. There are certain irrefutable truisms in painting. One is the fewer colors used, the stronger and more harmonious the statement. Economy of color equals clarity of intention. Respected painters, past and present, understood this concept and have employed it in one form or another. We will explore the power of a limited palette, calculating progressive sequences of 3 to 6 colors, referred to as harmonic chords, and explore how to select the best color set to serve our concept. The goal is to give each artist a reliable foundation for making color decisions for developing personal expressions of color. Hope to see you in the course.